But and then
Elon
that would
Musk,
be
if you're
number
out
one.
there, let me know if you're developing a time machine.
time machine. Yeah, I'll hop in that motherfucker. That's for sure.
The mustache and the beard you did.
You mean you don't want to go back to like 1200 so you can have chainmail?
Sure, why not? I more.
Okay, all right. Think about this.
If I went to war, I would rather go to a war where everybody had knives and swords than guns.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I don't want to get shot from like a million miles away, but from some guy I never seen. I want somebody one-on-one, show up and let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. The
Face to
question.
face.
The question that I was about to propose was this: if you could pick any point in time in history to go back to, if time machine was a real thing, when would it be?
I would want to live personally, in my opinion, close to caveman days.
Oh, yeah.
That was not.
I want to hunt with spears and bows and where they got those little curved things they put the spears into so they could throw
I
them
think they're
farther
called
and
like
faster.
an auto waddle or.
You talking about like the Australian boomerang things?
No.
No,
He's
no.
talking about those little.
So they got these
basically
like
how they created the cross.
yeah, it's got like an arm on it. It's kind of like a ladle. You think about a
Right,
ladle,
yeah,
right?
and you throw like a
stick
rock or
and the
something.
end of a
Yeah,
spear fits into it, and you can launch it and throw it further and faster. Obviously, back in those days, you don't live probably past the age of 25 to 30 years old, but those are like the more basic. That's the more. If I could go back in time and live in an age, that's where the age that I would live in.
You wouldn't necessarily also have to worry about losing weight.
That's true because you're running after your food all the time,
All the
chasing
time.
it
For
down.
miles.
And you're traveling from one part of your world to another part of the world, just following your prey.
And at that point, depending on what time period, you might be fucking the Neanderthals.
Might be what?
Humans and Neanderthals.
Well, I mean,
Things
that's
are-
going into like an evolutionary
Yeah,
discussion.
things are just much more basic and much more primal, more of a primal time.
That's true.
Well, where would you if you got your time machine? Would you go to the future or past, or what do you think?
Okay, well, I mean, no, I was talking about the past in general, but I mean, I didn't even think about the future.
I don't even want to live in the future, to be honest with you. I mean,
It may be primal.
that's possible.
I mean,
If somebody sets off a good what are those UMP? Is that what it's called?
EMP.
EMP. I'm sorry, UMP. What the fuck?
Electromagnetic.
An EMP and shuts down everything. I'll be good.
that'd be good.
I'll be good. Yeah, fuck it.
Okay, I mean, the real question would be, how many times could you use this time machine?
Once.
If you can only use it once, that's it.
Right.
To go where you're going, that's it.
I would probably go back to 1773. Specifically.
What happened in 1773?
Well, the Declaration
I
was
would
in
know
1776.
yes, but I would start. I would make this country.
He wants to be
I would
president.
assist in the creation of the United States of America.
He wants an old oil painting.
You want to sign the Declaration of Independence?
I mean,
Guy.
Guy.
right?
As soon as he got-
No last name or anything. Just a guy.
Over John Hancock.
Could you imagine if John Hancock was just from the future and he took a time machine? He was like, I'm gonna make sure everybody knows my name. Woo! Just writes it big, straight across the whole.
Right, and then on top of that, or over top of that, even bigger, guy. I mean, granted, they did a lot. They did a lot of things right, when that happened and everything. But at the same point in time, they left it a little too open to interpretation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, you have it's like being like Captain Hindsight. You're like, they thought they wrote it the best that they could for freedom,
for the time.
freedom and
Yeah,
rights for the people,
Yeah.
and not knowing what the future holds.
Right. They
There's
should have
gaps.
defined,
you would think they
stuff a little more.
but they can't foresee the things that look at how far we've progressed in that short amount of time. The real problem isn't that they wrote it wrong. They wrote it right because it's lasted for a very long time.
Agreed.
The real problem is that we can't agree on the things that we need to do to amend the Constitution to fix the problems that we have today.
Right, and on top, I mean, that's also a lot of, what's a good way to put it? The rate at which, the world is progressing, and technology in particular, and everything is progressing, it makes, makes for a difficult situation just to keep up.
Well, actually, at this point, there is no keeping up with it because the all artificial intelligence that we're creating today is learning at an unheard of rate, and at this point, it's my personal opinion that it's going to take over the information, if it hasn't already, the information that we see on a day-to-day basis and control our lives by studying and understanding human conduct.
So is Skynet going to happen?
It's not going to happen the way that you think it's going to happen.
Right. I mean, not obviously
we're not going to go to war with machines.
You don't think so?
No, we're not. It's not going to be. If there's going to be any kind of war, it's going to be between control and not control. I'm trying to. I'm probably saying this completely wrong, and I'm going to tell you what I mean by it. There's going to be people that are just going to go along with it, and then there's going to be people that are just going to resist it. There's resistance people,
conformists,
and there's conformists. Which basically in all things throughout history, there's been people all that way.
You have the free thinkers, the independent thinkers,
right?
And then you have.
I like to make my own decisions, and there's people that just want to make decisions that make their life comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's the key word right there. Comfortable. Is that?
And in order to resist an artificial intelligence controlling every part of your life, you're going to have to be in the resistance part.
But it won't be the majority. That's the problem.
It's definitely
majority's going to.
A majority's just going to do whatever they're told, just so nobody bothers them.
Yeah,
that's fair. When would you go to? I'm curious to hear this.
I would go to gladiatorial days.
Do you want to be a gladiator, or you just want to watch the
Absolutely.
gladiators? You want to be a gladiator.
Yeah. Just because I think, or any time in general, but I'm just picking.
You can be a gladiator right now. Like, what do you think the UFC is?
Yeah, but that's controlled. Like the gladiators, like it's controlled, but you can do whatever the fuck you want in there. Like UFC people aren't chopping arms off and dying in glory.
Well, I haven't done a history. I do know a little bit about the history of gladiators, but yes, they did fight, and yes, they did kill each other. But when you got your it depends on up and down. Yes, but a majority of gladiatorial fights did not end in death.
Right, because they wanted them to fight again. They found bones. I think it was a leg bone or something, where like people would just beat the bone back into place with a stone or something. They had like pieces of bone.
And you have to think about it. If you're a gladiator fighting against another gladiator, maybe the crowd does have a bloodlust, but you think about two football players, right? Most football players don't want to kill the other person that they're up against. They want to hurt them. They want to knock them down and make themselves look good. But at the same time, so think about two gladiators. They're fighting. Neither of them want to die.
But they want to go out in glory.
I'm sure there's some. Yeah,
I understand. Like I don't want to get old, right?
Right.
Like football players. Almost all football players, unless they get like an extreme head injury or something.
But there is a certain line of respect between the two of you.
Yeah. The fight was respectful to an extent, unless they released like lines or they had the naval combat crazy shit.
Yeah. So unless either person hated each other, which I imagine that most of them have never actually
they
met
live with each other.
Right. But they respect each other to a certain extent, and they want to do it. Most of them most likely want to do it professionally. And
You still got to go out in the police.
You still got to go. Yeah, you still got to go out and fight, but you don't really want to. And most people don't. Most people do not want to kill another person.
In today's world, and still there's still.
I think in almost all worlds, I think most of the time you actually kill somebody is a life and death situation.
A gladiator,
Like in a war, for example, you're just trying to survive. You're just doing whatever you have to survive. In a gladiatorial thing, in a controlled, it is somewhat of a controlled environment. You don't want to actually kill the other person. If you have them down and beaten, do you actually just want to finish them off and kill them?
Well, they're. I don't want to say morals, but morals were different back then. Like killing was, they could do it in a second without a second thought back in the day.
I don't believe that. I think morals do change and have changed, obviously, and I mean that's what all the. I don't want to get into the whole cancel culture thing and how morals.
I think you did. I wouldn't get into.
No, I don't because it's stupid. And personally, in my opinion, you can't judge somebody on the past from the morals standards of today. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like back in the day, killing somebody wasn't as bad as people.
It was always just as bad.
No, because we're just animals.
Right. Well, I mean,
That's
at
the way
the
they
same
look
point
at
in time, the moral standards of today are.
Well, now it's
They're ever changing today.
nowadays you say a word that offends somebody.
Yeah.
It's like.
Well, I mean,
Hey, you know what? It'll be totally different tomorrow.
well,
Totally different the day after.
here's
Totally
also
different,
here's
week down the
also
road.
here's also the same thing.